Okay, so we're going to start with a sunflower here. And remember, there are 5. We already have them pre-sorted. So I'm only going to show you one, and then you can just, if you need to, take and just rewind and watch it again. And I will go through the inking process one more time here. Now for this golden amber color, I'm going with the Morocco and just grabbing as much ink as I can initially, just to get that brush saturated, kind of rubbing it off on the side just to see what it looks like. We can start in the middle because that's going to be mostly hidden away by the stamen that we're going to add, and start doing little circles, hitting those petals, and then slowly work your way out. I'm pushing down a little bit harder as I go, since I probably have a little less ink left on the brush, and then I'll reapply. And initially, after I grab some more ink off of the ink pad, I'll push down with a little less intensity, because I do want a little bit less ink as I work my way out to the edge and ends of the petals. Okay, it's up to you how far out you want to go, but I think that looks pretty good. You can see that I've got a little bit more there, but that's fine. And you can see that cool little design that's left behind. And we're just going to repeat that process on the next one until we get all 3. And I am not going to bother, well, the stamen are all black and brown. I'm not going to bother inking the stamen. There's really not much to ink since they're so dark anyway. But what you can do if you want, and I may do this, is take a little bit of paint and just dab a little white paint on the tips of the stamen, the centers of the flowers, after everything's put together, of course. So many ways to embellish the flower. After the fact. Okay, I think that looks nice. And I'll keep on cruising here. For whatever reason, maybe it's because of the light, the camera doesn't show the intensity of the inks as well. The video camera, that is. When I take photos of these, you'll probably see it a little bit more pronounced. And just working little circles. It's the first day of school today. We just took our first day of school pictures. Woke up nice and early. Our kids' bus gets here at about 7:12, I think. We got a long bus ride. We're out in the middle of the country, but that's okay. It's been a long summer. Mom needs a break. Okay, I think that looks pretty good. And as I mentioned earlier, if you want, what you can do is grab an applicator and just take and kind of hit the tips a little bit. Just kind of singe them a little bit. Totally optional. You guys can get as creative as you want with your inking, and I'm sure I'll see a ton of different variations of these inks, of the inking process on these flowers. You don't have to do every single one either. You can kind of skip one here or there. Now we also need to train and shape the petals, which I'll show you here in a second. You're going to want to find the thinnest dowel you have. Hopefully it's, I think we're looking for a 1/4 inch dowel like that one for these, based on the shape and size of the petals. And this is going to test your finger strength, give your fingers a little bit of exercise. I noticed that. Hopefully they don't cramp up. I would maybe do this in little spurts. Okay, so you get the idea here. And I'd say probably about Now to do it right and to do it accurately, probably about 10 minutes of flour. Okay, so I'm going to grab our dowel and I'm going to take the very tip of it and go just a little bit past the inside part of the petal. Just go a little bit past it. You can put it right in the middle of the petal and then grab your fingers and press the outside edges of the petals up against the dowel to kind of cup it and make it kind of round. Okay, you can see if that one there, you can see how it's kind of round. This one's completely flat and that one's kind of rounded a little bit. Now I've noticed to make it even more pronounced, I can start at the edge of one of the petals and kind of run the dowel across while pushing up against the dowel. You can also, if you want, you can probably pinch the edge. I don't know if I like the look of that. Yeah, I think it kind of destroys the paper a little bit. You can if you want, but I'm just gonna train it against the dowel. I'm not gonna pinch the edge. Just want to cup those petals just to give them a little bit of dimension so that, again, we get some nice shadows and highlights on each of the petals. It's going to make it look a lot more interesting. So let's take a look here. So you can see, if I angle it right, especially like right here, because I've got lights that way, you can see here, you got nice highlights and nice shadows. Where with this one, it's just flat. See the difference, okay? So you're going to repeat that process for all the petals, and then we'll start putting the flower together. Make sure you have your wrapped stems. It's kind of a large flower, so it is, you gotta kind of feel it. Try to hold it nice and steady. It's a little wobbly because it's so large, but you can do it. It's not very difficult. It's not difficult at all, actually. I'm literally just putting the dowel in the middle of the petal, and then with my thumb and my two fingers here, just kind of wrapping it around the dowel, each petal. And I can feel that in my thumb already, giving it a good workout. So shake it off and continue. I would probably just do each step in this sequence instead of trying to curl all the petals all at once. You're gonna cramp up if you do that. So I would break this down and make each flower one at a time rather than trying to do an assembly line and shape every single petal. I think your fingers might, like I said, cramp up and it will not feel good. And I'll be 42 this year, so if you are a little bit older, you might feel it even more. So like I said, break it down by flower. Don't try to do every single process, every single similar process all in one fell swoop. I don't think that's advised. Okay, let's get our floral stems. Here's my stem. Now, one other thing too is just make sure that you're using the correct color floral tape. So with these leaves, I picked this tape, which very closely matches the shade, especially when we pull it out. You can see it's very close. This lighter green I'm using for the daisies because the leaf colors are a little bit brighter, okay? So we're gonna start off by wrapping the stem first. So what you wanna do is just kind of wrap just the very top. You can kind of push down on the top and then very slowly make sure that you stretch the tape out to reveal the sticky and kind of at a 45-degree angle going towards you, just twist the stem with your left hand as you guide the floral tape onto the stem at that angle. And when you get down here, pull some more out, give it a stretch, and continue. And I'm just gonna, obviously the stems are not gonna be this long, when we put them into our final arrangement, but right now we're just going to leave them full size and we'll figure out where to cut them later. Okay, so go down to almost the bottom. Like I said, we're not gonna quite use all of it, but you might as well just wrap it. Okay, there we go. Just rip that off, should come off very easily. And there's your wrapped stem. Okay, so let's grab our stamen pieces here, and this is gonna apply to every sunflower. Remember, we talked about the thickness of this little band here. Okay, 3 of them are extra thick, 2 are semi-thick, and 1 is super skinny on that band. Okay. All right. So here are the thicker ones. These are a little bit thinner, and this one is ultra thin. Okay, so a couple ways of doing this. The first set of stamen, it's important to get those on so that they are in place and they're nice and sturdy so it doesn't move around too much. Okay, and to accomplish that, you can, if you want, you can use hot glue, or you can just take regular glue and glue that first little bit right to the stem, and then just kind of wait a minute or two. What you're going to do actually is you want you have a texture side and a smooth side. You want the smooth side facing you, and you're going to have this one little area here where the stamen doesn't go out to the edge. That's where we're going to start. So I'm going to put a little bit of glue on my stem here. Of course, my glue is not cooperating. There we go. Just a tiny little bit, nice and thin. Okay. And then take the edge where the stamen doesn't go out all the way to the edge. There's 2 little score marks on this. And wrap it right. That little strip should be flush with the top of the stem. Wrap it around once. And then just kind of hold it. Hold it there for, I don't know, 30 seconds to a minute. Make sure you have a hot glue gun ready to go. We want that to be as sturdy as possible right up at the top there, so it's easier to glue the entire stamen on. Okay, so I think we might be in good shape. I'm going to put it down like this on my surface and just very gently run a little line of glue all the way out to the very edge, and then start wrapping. Now you want to keep the bottom part of that little strip, the solid part, not the stamen part, lined up against itself. It should be flush against itself. Okay. It'll take a little bit of practice. Now, if you're finding that this thing is also spinning around the stem, that means you didn't wait long enough for that glue to hold. But what I'm going to do, because I've done this now a handful of times, I'm going to get my hot glue going. And once I get this first one on, I'm actually going to take and hot glue it to the stem so that it definitely doesn't move around on me. Just do your best to wrap it around itself so that that bottom strip, see, that just came right off because I didn't wait long enough, and that's okay. Just make sure the bottom of that is flush with itself. And that glue should be okay. If not, we might need to reapply it. Just get that first layer on. Okay, now you can see here that this slid all the way through, and that's okay. We just want to hide it. Give that a second. Let's get the hot glue going here. Make sure that that stem is not sticking out. You want it right in the middle. And then take and just apply a little bit of glue right at the very bottom of that. And then use the glue gun's tip to kind of spread it nice and thin. We want to just anchor that first layer of stamen to the stem. Again, make sure that it's not sticking out too much, but that it's in there just enough. And that hot glue, give that a second to dry. Okay, there's your first layer. Second layer is going to be the same one, the one with the thickest strip. And at this point, you can pick pretty much any spot on the existing stamen to apply just a little bit of glue. Again, texture side in, and find the side that has two little score marks on it, and pop that right onto the existing set of stamen. Wrap it around initially, just so that it holds. Okay, you should feel that that stamen is not rotating around the stem now because of that hot glue. It's keeping it in place. So you can lay this down now and just do a nice thin line of glue all the way out to the very end. And you know what I found is I actually just took this and just rested the actual stem on my shoulder, and then I just used both my hands to wrap that stamen around the existing stamen that's there. You want it to be as taut as possible. Go nice and slow. Make sure it's flush with itself all the way around. And that hot glue should be keeping it in place firmly. If it's not completely flush, that's okay, but keep it relatively close. Okay, so we're getting towards the end of the first one. Keep that nice and straight and hold it right at the end. Just like that. Okay, we'll give that a second. We're going to grab the third strip with the thick band at the bottom, or the thick strip. And again, texture side facing you. Take and apply a little bit of glue pretty much anywhere. Grab the end with the two little score marks. And go ahead and line it up just as we've been doing. Wrap around. And just hold that in place while it sets initially. Then you can lay it down. And nice thin line of glue all the way down to the end. And you can start wrapping. I'm going to rest the stem on my shoulder and very slowly wrap it around. Yeah, we've never done a stemmed sunflower. This is the first one. So it takes a little extra TLC, tender love and care, to make sure that you do it correctly without it flailing around all over the place, but it's not that hard. Just take your time. Okay, there's the third one. Hold it in place. There we go. Beautiful. All right, so now we want to grab the two that have kind of the medium-sized bands. Okay, this one has one score mark at the very edge, and we're going to repeat the same process. Throw a little bit of glue right on the stem. You want your texture side facing away from you, smooth side facing you. Line that up, flush with the bottom. Just hold it in place, that first initial one. Okay, again, make sure that it's flush with itself on the bottom. And then we can lay this out. Apply your glue along that strip. Nice and thin, all the way out to the edge. And start wrapping. Keep it nice and taut. Okay, you can put that on your shoulder. Kind of look at it from this vantage point. And very slowly continue wrapping. I'm using this thumb here to kind of guide it and feel for that flushness at the bottom. Should be nice and flush there. You can see how flush that is. Okay, there we go. We got two more to go. Just make sure that the very end of that is nice and secure. Here we go. Grab this last one that has the thicker strip. We only have two left. You can see here, the last one's super thin. Okay, same thing. Texture side facing in. Throw a little bit of glue on there. Start on this side here where the stamen doesn't go out to the edge. Line that up. Okay. Press and hold that in place. And then flip her over. Apply your glue all the way out to the edge and start wrapping. Put that on your shoulder again and just rotate it. Use your thumb to guide it on, using this finger to push it down. Keep it nice and taut. And then once we have the stamen on, the first layer is going to be the brown layer, and we're going to use some hot glue to actually reinforce this thing on the stem so it stays nice and solid. At this point, I have a wireless, cordless glue gun, and I think it might, no, it's not dead, it's fine. I'm going to get it fired up. Okay, last one here, the super thin strip. Same thing applies. Texture side in. Go ahead, and this one, again, this one's a little bit thinner, but same process applies. Make sure it's flush with the bottom. Hold that in place for just a moment. Make sure that first little section stays glued. Put a thin little line of glue all the way out to the end. If you get a little bit on the stamens, it's not the end of the world. And just start wrapping. Okay, I'm gonna put that on my shoulder and just continue the process. This is our last set of stamen that we have to wrap. And we're doing a good job. Okay, almost there. And voila. That is done. Okay, so there we go. That's what it should look like when it's all said and done. So now I'm going to grab one of these, okay, and let's slide this through. And as you bring it up the stem, spin the stem. It makes it a lot easier. Okay, well, it looks like I didn't quite wait long enough for that very end to grab. Make sure you don't repeat, don't make that mistake. Okay, let me get my hot glue in there. Okay, nice and heated up. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to apply glue to basically just the center of that black stamen part. I'm going to bring this up as far as it'll go, and I'm kind of pushing from the top while kind of squeezing from the bottom, pushing them together to make good contact. And it's obviously also going onto the stem. It's going to keep this nice and in place for us. Okay, while you're here, you can take and fluff these up. We still have to spread these out, but I'm not going to do it just yet, not until we get all of the elements on there, because if you do it now, chances are it's going to flatten out. Okay, so let's grab the other brown piece. And at this point, we're pretty much done with the hot glue for the flower. We'll slide this up and just apply a little bit of glue onto this brown piece. I like to just kind of spin it. You don't need a lot, just like that. Take it up, and you want to offset these petals so they're not right on top of each other. I'm going to make it as full looking as possible. And once you've got it lined up, push down from the top, push up from the bottom to get everything to make good contact. Okay, so that's what we have so far. Now it's time for our petals. Doesn't matter which one you grab, just grab one of them. Poke it through that little center part, spin it up. Okay, we're gonna do the same thing here. Just apply some glue right around the center. It's all gonna be covered up by the stamen anyway. And push up, push down from the top, up from the bottom. Kind of have my fingers like this, just to get in there as far as I can, just kind of slowly rotating around, pushing up from the bottom, down from the top. These first sets of petals, I'm gonna kind of flare them up. You can fold them up a little bit. Okay, the second set I'm going to leave straight. I'm not going to train them at all. Spin that up. Apply your glue. And we're going to offset these petals as well. We don't want them right on top of each other. We want to rotate it a little bit so that second set is visible through the first set. And same thing here. Push down from the top, up from the bottom. Okay, there's your second set. Now this last set of petals, I'm going to feed these up. And before we glue them down, I'm going to take and I'm going to fold them down just a little bit. Don't overdo it. And that's going to help create nice separation between the three layers to make the flower look more full. Okay, so go ahead and apply your glue. Bring it up, and we want to offset these petals from the last layer. Just like that. Push that down. There we go. Okay, so there's our beautiful flower. And we'll grab the stamen. I'm going to actually do this with the texture side up so that when I'm training these, I'm grabbing the tip, placing it up against my dowel and between my finger and the dowel, and then just curling it down. Almost looks like that little part of the strawberry that you cut off. The leaf part. Slide that up. Whoops. And just apply your glue just a little bit. Bring it up, all the way up against the bottom to hide all that stuff. You can see how nice that looks on the bottom. Same thing applies. Okay, now at this point, you can kind of hold the flower and just start on the outside. Start pulling those stamen out. Bring them down as far as you can. Start on the first few layers. And then start working your way in. You can go clockwise, counterclockwise, doesn't really matter. And spread these out as far as they'll go. Try to keep it as consistent as you can. Now my green stem, it's kind of, it's probably a little bit higher than I wanted it, but that's okay. You can either A, cut it with a wire cutter. See if I can do that real quick. Or if you don't want to mess with it, you could always take a little bit of black paint and just paint it if it's sticking out too much. Okay, so as I mentioned, if by chance you just got a little bit too much of that stem protruding, just take a little bit of black paint, just dab it to hide it, and now it's gone. Okay, so it's not a big deal. It happens. Let me cut this off so I don't get any paint all over my beautiful sunflower. All right, so now I'm going to take the two leaves that we have, and in this case, they're both the same size. If when you're putting yours together the way that we laid them out, if you have a larger one and a smaller one, put the smaller one first, or use the smaller one first. I'm going to take and I'm placing the leaf, the base of the leaf, between my finger and the dowel with the texture facing away from me. We'll take it and bend it about 90 degrees and run the dowel through to kind of create a droopy leaf like this, okay? And what we're gonna do is take this, and I'd say roughly about 2 inches, maybe 2.5 inches from the bottom of the flower. And these here, I'm gonna bring these down eventually. Now this is all gonna be part of the arrangement process. We are going to go around and just take a look at all of our flowers, all the petals, just to make sure they're as full as possible. Now, as we're actually building them and working with them, we're probably doing things that make the petals kind of go back to their default position. But once we get the arrangement in place, we can go through and kind of finesse all of the individual petals to make them look more full so they're not as flat looking. And there you can already see the difference in that. Okay, so with this, I'm going to take and just kind of bend the very tip of this towards me so that it's not just straight up. I want it kind of facing me a little bit. Okay, and I want the leaves to be just to the left and right of the flower to make it look kind of full from that angle. So I'm going to put this one right about here. I'm going to grab my floral tape. And if you want, you can use hot glue and put a little bit of hot glue right on this stem to anchor it, because if you don't, sometimes as you're applying your tape, it has a tendency to kind of spin around since it's not completely anchored to the stem. Right now, I'm taping it to the stem, starting at the base of the leaf. But as you'll see here, if I rip this off, okay, you're able to move this and swing this around, which is actually kind of helpful if you don't use the hot glue method or a gluing method to anchor it. Once you have it where you want it, you can then take and starting just below it without touching or rotating the actual leaf, add your floral tape from just below the leaf up to the base of the leaf, and it's not going to go anywhere. Okay, it's basically now in stone and anchored and should not be rotating at all. And actually that one's still kind of rotated a little bit. So I'll just show you here as an option. Let me fire up this little guy here. So if we have, excuse me, if we have one of the leaves right about there, I'm going to bring it down to the other side, not exactly the other side, maybe like I'd say 50 some degrees around. Let me show you what I mean. So you can see this one's here. I'm not going to go on the complete other side. I'm going to bring it to about there. Okay. And what you can do, I think this thing is not happy right now. It needs to be charged. Yeah, I need to charge this. But what I was going to say is, and we can just pretend that this is the hot glue. You can throw a little bit of hot glue right on the base of the stem, and you know hot glue dries really quick, and then pop it right on the floral stem, right where you plan on, or right where you want it, and let that hot glue kind of anchor it, and then putting the floral tape is going to be a lot easier because it's not going to be spinning around on you. Okay, but I'm happy with that positioning there. I might kind of rotate it towards me just a tad. Okay, then this will work with regular glue. You just have to wait a little bit longer, where with hot glue it tends to really hold super quick. Okay, so don't forget to stretch that tape out and just start wrapping just the very base of the stem of the leaf, and then work your way up right to where that stem sort of starts to round out and flare out, and then wrap it down one more time and go down maybe another inch, and there we go. Okay, so that one, I think it's in a good spot. Okay, so you can see how nice that looks. All right, so that is your sunflower. At this point, you can stop, rewind, and you are going to make 4 more of these. And I can show you here what mine look like. Okay, so I've got my red ones, 2 yellows, a couple oranges, and these are ready to go. And what we can do now is work on our daisy. Okay, so remember we have all of the pieces for the daisy all laid out, and this one's relatively simple. Now this is I think it's the amber yellow or golden amber color. So I'm actually, because it's the same yellow as the sunflower, using the same color ink for this. And the process for me, based on my research, is going to be the same. going to start in the middle and just do little circles, work my way out. You can go as far out as you want. Whoops, just be careful. Be gentle not to rip any of the petals, otherwise you're going to be recutting. You don't really need to push that hard. Okay, and you can certainly go heavier if you want. After all, it is an autumn project, and I think that autumn is all about color, especially nice vibrant yellows and oranges and purples and a little bit of green. Okay. You can rotate it, continue adding your color. Just make sure, if you have brand new ink pads, that as you're applying it onto your brush, that you're not getting a ton of ink. Which is why I always kind of brush it onto a scrap piece of paper first, just to see how much ink is actually coming off. And always start in the center and work your way out after reapplying that ink on your brush. Okay, what do we got here? There we go. Whoops, just be careful. Been plenty of times where I've ripped petals off of little pieces like this. And for these little fellas here, just be extra gentle. Don't push down as hard. It'll still apply that ink. Very gentle little circles. Just like that. Don't need to get too crazy with it. There we go. And there we go. Okay, with these, what I did with these is I took and I flipped it over smooth side towards me, placed the dowel at the base of the petal, lifted the petal up about 45 degrees, and then just run the dowel through. We want them to kind of droop and curl down. Okay, so you can go ahead and just do that to all of them. The stamen pieces I'm not worried about right now. Once we get them in place, we'll take those and kind of flare them up towards us. Okay. And yeah, these are really straightforward. There's one little tricky thing that we need to do with the stamens that we need to roll onto our floral stem, but it's not difficult at all. Let me grab a stem. That one's way too short. Okay, so this stem is not as long as my other ones, but that's okay. All right, now remember to grab the correct color floral tape. Since the leaves are a little bit lighter, we're going with a lighter shade. And you can see I already have some floral tape on here, so either A, I can take it off or just go over it. That could be my bottom, that's fine, not a big deal. Just want to keep the colors consistent. Okay, let's flare this out. And just roll that floral tape onto our stem. There we go. With this one, since it's shorter, I'm just going to take it all the way down to the bottom. There we go. And let's grab our stamen. There's 4 of them. Okay, this yellow one we're going to save for last. And you'll notice that 2 of these have little score marks and kind of almost like a little tab where the stamen doesn't go all the way to the end. One of these does not have that feature. You can see the difference there. Take this one. We're going to use that in conjunction with the colored stamen. Just put that off to the side for a second. And just like we did with the sunflower, we're going to take and put the texture side facing in or away from us. And we can throw a little bit of glue on the tip of this. Grab that little section there that does not have a stamen attached to it, and just wrap it around the first time. And just hold that in place, let that glue do its work. You can use hot glue for this if you want. I've even used Scotch tape in the past. Okay, just give that a second to set. And while you're holding it, you can go ahead and apply your glue to the length of the little band on the stamen, all the way to the edge. And we're doing the same thing. Just going to wrap this around itself, keeping it flush with itself at the bottom, that straight little strip. Keep it nice and taut. Try not to leave any gaps. And just twist it in your fingers. Okay. Just try to keep that bottom nice and flush against itself. All the way to the very edge. Just like that. Okay. I'm going to fire up the hot glue here. And just like we did with the sunflower, I'm going to take and apply a little bit of glue to the base of this just to get it anchored to the stem a little bit better. Okay. I'll give my hot glue a second to get going, since it's the cordless kind. Fingers should be good and sticky if you have a good quality floral tape. Okay, there we go. Hot glue's fired up. I'm just going to do a thin little bead right at the base of the stem where the stamen meets the stem. And I just squeezed out a little bit. Now I'm using the tip of this to kind of spread it around. I'm not continuing to push more of that glue out, just a tiny little bit. Okay, so there's that. I'm going to grab the next strip, texture side in, throw a little bit of glue on the previous strip. Start with the side here that doesn't have the stamen out to the edge. Line it up nice and flush against itself. Just hold that in place. And while you're holding, take and apply some glue down the entire length of the strip, like so. And again, if you have a full-size stem, you can just pop that on your shoulder and start wrapping. Now this stem is a little bit shorter because it was, well, probably one that I cut in half from a previous project, so I don't have the luxury of placing it on my shoulder. But since it is a little bit lighter, it's easier to kind of hand hold and wrap. Okay, so now this is going to be a little bit different. Okay, what we want to do here is we're going to take this yellow strip. We want this facing us, smooth side facing us. And we're going to take this green one, and we're actually going to glue these together. Now, as we're applying this to our stem, it's going to fight itself, but that's okay. I'll show you what you need to do there. Okay, so you can see here, this is smooth side on both of these facing me, and I'm going to rotate it now so that it is texture side up, and we're going to apply a little line of glue down the entire length of the colored stamen. Then we're going to take the green stamen, and we're going to line up the very edges of both of these, and it should be flush at the bottom. We're just putting one on top of the other, flush with the bottom, so that you see the stamen colors alternating. So it should go yellow, green, yellow, green, yellow, green, yellow, green, so on and so forth. So we're creating a multicolored set of stamen here, just like that. All right, now, as we are applying this and rotating this around, this little piece is going to fight itself, and it's going to want to pull away from itself. Okay, and that's okay. What you're going to do is during that process, you are simply going to force it into place, and you're going to kind of have to, well, kind of bend it and crease it. When I get to that point, I'll show you what I mean. Okay, so here, I'm gonna start wrapping this. And as I wrap it, you can see this little part here starting to separate. Grab just a little bit past that part and then just press that down and force it into place. And it's gonna separate again, but that's okay. Just keep doing the same thing I'm telling you to do. And just, you're gonna fold a little bit of that green layer on top of itself, and you'll actually feel the fold. The fold happened right there. That's totally fine. Just manhandle it. Just push it and force it into place. It'll be fine. There we go. And this one actually worked out better than some of my previous ones. Actually worked out a lot better. There you can see it kind of separated there. Just push it up against it. Just force it into place. It'll be fine. Okay, all the way at the edge, everything's nice and lined up at the bottom, super flush, looking good. And there we go. Okay, so that stamen is in place. We're gonna start with these guys here, these small ones. Now, there's three. One is larger than the others. And we're gonna take and grab the largest one, feed it onto your stem, bring it up, and this is the last little bit of hot glue we'll need for this flower. Just again to anchor this to this and kind of keep the whole stem and stamen all together. I'm going with hot glue for this. And it's proven to be a great idea. Keeps everything intact. If my hot glue will cooperate. I didn't charge it overnight. I left it off the charger, so that's on me. But it looks like I might just get enough. I should have brought this up a little bit higher or applied the glue up here, which is fine, not a big deal. Okay, so push that hot glue right up in there. You can push down on the stamen as you're pushing up on the petals. Careful not to mess up the stamen there. You can take and curl these up. Okay, it's not up as far as I would like it to be. That looks better. Okay, there we go. And I'm just gonna work our way up here with the next set of stamen. Bring those up. Apply your glue. And we're going to offset these as well. So make sure that they're not right on top of each other. I'm going to rotate them a little bit so that that next layer, you can see it right through the top layer. Okay, bring that up as far as it'll go. Excuse me. And press that into place. Let's fix that stamen there. Okay, and the last one here, feed that through. And again, offset these petals as well. Don't forget to twist it while you're working your way up. It's just a lot easier. Less friction. You can give it that twist. Okay, here we go. That looks nice so far. And then we have 3 of these layers to bring up. So just poke that through. These should slide up a lot easier. Bring it all the way almost to the top. Apply a little bit of glue, bring it up. And press that into place. Okay. There's that. And looking at this, I think I might actually bring that ink out a little bit more. Realize that this is one of the smaller daisies, and it's not as visible. Okay, let's poke that through, bring it up. Just apply a little glue on there, bring it all the way up. And just like we did before, let's offset these petals so that all of them are visible, none of them are fighting. Yeah, so you can see just a little tinge of that orange popping through. Okay. There we go. And that just leaves one more set of petals. Bring those up. Okay, throw a little bit of glue right around the center of those petals. Last layer, go ahead and offset those as well. Just try to make this as full as possible. I'm pushing down on the stamen from the top, pushing up from the bottom. There we go. Now while we have this here, well, let's get the calyx in place here. Okay, so I'm going to do texture side up, grab a thin dowel, and you can just take and grab the tips of these, place the tips of these little petals between your finger and the dowel, and then just curl them down towards you. This actually looks more like the calyx on a strawberry. Okay, I'm going to feed that through just like we've been doing. Bring it up. Throw a little glue on there. Bring it up all the way. So it looks like that. Okay. All right, now, while we have this like this, we can take and begin creating some separation between, well, actually, before we do that, let's actually spread out, starting on the outside, just like we did with the sunflower, starting with the little stamen on the outside. You can see the little multicolored ones. Start flaring those out, and then go sort of in the center layer, and I would probably just leave the middle mostly alone. Okay, there you go. That looks awesome. All right, then you can take these middle ones here, take a few of them, and flare them up. And let's take these bottommost petals and kind of flare them down, just to make this nice and full. So that all three layers are kind of separated, and you can see how beautiful that looks. Okay, all right, now that we have that, you can take and, again, if you have two different sized leaves, take the leaf that is smaller, and let's put that towards the top here. Okay, I want it right about here, so that it just looks nice and natural. Okay, and I did actually take and draw in, this is a deboss that your machine can do. There's, I think in the extras folder, we have a deboss version of that, and then on top of the debossing, I actually just drew in the little vein for this one. On the sunflowers, I just left the debossing as is. I didn't want to draw them in. I might have drawn it in on one of them. I didn't like how it looked, so I just left the debossing as is. Okay, so we're just gonna take and, with our floral tape, get our first little leaf in place, like so. And I'm going to take this one here, also curl this one so it kind of droops, like gravity is pulling it down. Okay, so this one's going to be here. I want to take this one so you can see the location of the first leaf. I want this one kind of either behind it or up in front. I don't like it when they're like this. I like it when it's not exactly on the opposite side, a little bit, you know, maybe 45, 50 degrees or so, and bring this one down maybe an inch lower than the previous one. Okay, you can take some hot glue and place it on the base of the stem here to anchor it. You can take some hot glue and place it on the bottom of the leaf here so that you can anchor it to the stem so it doesn't move around on you. I don't usually do that just because I know how to work with things. I know how to work with the leaves so that I get them where I want. But it is helpful if you're new to this to use some hot glue to anchor it. Again, what I usually do is just tape it around the center so that it stays stuck to the stem, but I can still rotate it around where I want it. Okay, and I think I want this one right about here, at which point I'll take and starting just below, you can see the actual stem of the leaf here. I'll start below it and then just wrap my way up. Okay, so let's go ahead and begin putting together our crate. Now we have two pieces that look like this. Okay, I've already done some inking to some of these, and we're gonna find the 4 little pieces that look like this as far as the foam core goes. And this is pretty straightforward. These are gonna be the little feet at the bottom of our crate. You can begin by applying glue to the tab, the long tab there. Spread that glue out to the very edge. And with these, you can actually just put this down flat, grab the other end, make sure the tabs are not in the way, and just push that down against that tab. Okay, and then you can go ahead and shape it. So there you have that. Let's take one of the lids, move it out of the way. There's 3 tabs. Okay, apply your glue to the 3 tabs. Kind of dab that with your finger. Grab yourself a dowel, have one ready. Close the lid, make sure it's nice and lined up. Nice and centered. Let that glue kind of grab it. And you can flip it over and just push down from the inside. Help it really get a grip. Okay, there we go. Let's move these tabs out of the way. We're going to take 2 of these, stack them on top of each other, and just slide them in like this. Okay, we can close this up. Dab that, and then press that down. And there we go. There's one. Okay, and we'll do the same thing with this one here. Grab your piece. Now this is a white core paper that I did this with, and one thing I dislike about white core is when you put score lines on it, you can kind of see it, but nothing you can't fix or hide with a little bit of ink, so not a big deal. Okay, we'll press that into place. Do the same thing. This is the same exact piece. Put a little bit of glue on the 3 tabs. You can kind of dab that with your finger and go ahead and close it up. Make sure it's nice and aligned, nice and centered. Just like that. Press that down. You can push down from the inside, help that tab get a nice grip on that. And then take these 2, stack them, pop them right in there. Then go ahead and close this up. Apply your glue. And close it up. Okay. All right, so the legs are good. Put those off to the side. Now let's grab this large base piece. Okay. And I think this is going to be 2 layers thick as well. It is. Okay, so I've already pre-folded everything at the score marks. What I'm going to do here is start on the side that has this lid connected to it, because I want to make sure that I get this glued and held in place properly and solidly. Throw a little bit of glue on that triangular tab. Bring this in right behind this side wall and press and hold that in place. Give that a few seconds to set. You really want to be patient with this process here because, again, this little triangular tab is holding a lot of weight on that lid. Okay, so don't rush. And then head over to this other side. apply your glue to the other triangular tab. Thin that out if you need to. And bring this wall in. Line it up so it's nice and straight and hold that in place. Okay. Now, next we're going to head over to the front here. Throw a little bit of glue on this triangular tab. Tuck that in. Press and hold. Get that lined up as accurately as you can. Kind of just creating a little compartment here for our foam core, which will eventually go inside. Head over to the last triangular tab. Throw a little glue on that. Tuck it in. Line it up. Press and hold. Make sure you don't have any excess glue. Just go ahead and wipe that off if you do. All right, try not to push this lid out too much. And go ahead and pop your foam core in now. Get the tabs out of the way so it slides in there nicely. There's 2 layers. Okay. All right, now you can take these 3 tabs, and we have to close this up in one fell swoop here, which is fine. We have the foam core that's going to help us kind of give us some resistance to push up against as we're closing this. I'm going to do a nice thin line along the edge. Let's spread that out to the very edge of all 3 tabs. Just like that. Then go ahead and close it up. Line it up with the long side first here. Get it all the way out to the edge, nice and centered. Press that down. You've got that foam core inside, so when you push down, you're actually pushing down against something, not just a hollow piece of paper. Tuck in the edges if you need to, and just continue running your finger along the perimeter, ensuring that everything is making nice, solid contact. Be a nice crate once it's all done. Okay. Take a look at your edges. Make sure there's no gaps. And there we go. Okay, so that one's done. Now we have a total of 4 of these. These are going to be our little planks. Okay. And this is going to go together pretty much the same exact way that we just did this large piece, except that it's just a little smaller. Okay, so we'll start here towards the inside where the little lid is. We'll call it the lid. We'll bring that in and line it up and press and hold to form the dimensional part. And really just take your time with this, because again, that little tab is doing a lot of work. Okay, head on over to the other side and throw a little bit of glue on this one. Tuck that in and behind and press and hold that in place. Okay, then we'll head up to the front, 2 more tabs, and then you're going to repeat this process 3 more times for this one. I don't need to show you how to do it 4 times, so I'll just go and restart my camera while you wrap up 3 more of these. We'll put one together completely. Okay, now I don't typically do 2 tabs at a time here, but feeling risky. I think we'll be okay. That one is on there nicely. Tuck that one behind that front. Press that and hold. There we go. Okay, now these are only going to be 1 layer thick. Okay, so there's 4 of them. There's 3 for these. This one only needs the 1. So you're going to slide that right in there. Should fit perfectly. You can take these 3 tabs, press them down onto the foam core, and go ahead and apply your glue to the remaining 3 tabs. And spread that out. There we go. Okay, and then go ahead and close it up. Just like we did that larger piece. Get this long end lined up first. Make sure everything's nice and centered. Push in the two sides if necessary. Want everything to line up as accurately as possible. And then just keep running your finger along the perimeter on those seams. Basically creating some wood planks, reinforced wood planks. Okay, there we go. And there's one of 4. Okay, so you're gonna do all 4 of these. Right here. I'll do one more with you. Maybe we can just do some story time here. Okay, so we'll start here towards the inside where we have this large area. We'll bring that in and line it up right at this edge. Press and hold. Okay. So yeah, it is now August 20-something. I don't remember. It's weird how every year on the first day of school you head outside and it's that same cool pre-fall air where you almost, well, especially around here, I mean, it's different in different places, obviously, but I almost need a hoodie. And the coffee is not only warming you up, but getting you going. Kids are off to 6th and 7th grade. I've done this every year now since kindergarten. It's crazy to see them grow up so quick. And Peyton was out there today. I have a picture of him. He's infatuated with buses. He has little, Matchbox buses, and he has a bus that it's like a Coco Melon bus. For those of you that still have little kids, you know what Coco Melon is. He rides that. He watches buses, sings the wheels on the bus. Like I don't know why he's obsessed. I have a friend. My friend Martin is actually a bus driver too, and he's really, he's got a lot of seniority at his depot. Sometimes he'll even make a little pit stop to come visit us during the day in between routes. And he'll bring the bus, and Peyton is just, I think maybe that's where this whole thing started, possibly. Okay, so I've got the sides all in place. We're gonna grab some foam, pop it right in there. Take these tabs, bring them in. You can push them down onto the foam. And again, apply your glue to all 3 tabs. Don't overdo it, just a good amount. It's spreadable. Spread that out to the very edge of all the tabs. Whoops. Here we go. And then when you're bringing this down, focus on this side first. Get that nice and aligned. Nice and centered. And if you need to kind of push the sidewalls in a little bit, that's totally normal. Just giving them a little nudge as I'm pressing down. And once everything's aligned, just continue running your fingers along the perimeter. And there we go. Okay, so there's 2. And let's just keep at it here. All right, starting towards the back by the lid, tuck that in and press and hold. I had a little bit of glue squirt out there, that's okay. So yeah, Peyton's gonna be 2 years old on November 22nd, which means that he's still got a few years before he goes to school. But boy, time is just flying by, I will say. It's kind of sad. Okay, we'll tuck that in. There we go. All right, got that one. I'll head towards the front. So again, this is a pretty simple little process, a little redundant, but it's okay. And I've already got some items for Halloween. sort of picked out as far as our next bundle goes, which is what we're going to be working on next. I want to give you guys plenty of time to get all your Halloween stuff done. Figured this would be, initially when we started this one, it was supposed to be like kind of like a farmer's market theme. We had a lot of different ideas running around. We ended up going with what we did. And, well, as usual, you know, projects take longer than anticipated, especially this one with all the 3D flowers and such. All right, go ahead and put your foam in there, bring the 3 tabs in. But yeah, we're getting that time of the year. It's crazy how quickly it goes by. And hopefully one of these years, yeah, well, I guess what I'm trying to say is I've been trying to be more in the moment with everything. Life kind of gets in the way sometimes with, you know, just being a dad and trying to make sure everything's running smoothly and everyone's taken care of and fed, and don't always get to enjoy it as much as you want, but maybe that'll change. I have a feeling it will. It'll be good. I think that also comes with age. Okay, there we go. There's our third one, looking pretty sharp. Okay, there we go. And there's just one more. And then we have one funky piece that I saved the best for last, of course. That is a little bit different. When I was prototyping it, I was like, ooh, this is kind of tricky, but actually it's not that bad. And I'll show you. Surprisingly, it goes together pretty easy. All right, so there's the last one. Make sure you get those edges nice and aligned. Press and hold. Give that a few seconds to set. Yeah, and after we get this thing assembled, it's really just, you know, the fun part, the arrangement. And I'm sure that's going to be different for everybody. I will, as I typically do, probably spend some time coming up with what I think is the best way to do it. And you know, I'll go over what I did with everybody. The one thing that I will say is I have seen in the past some arrangements where every arrangement I've seen is like the flowers, they've looked fantastic. My only complaint that I've seen on a few is, and I think I've mentioned it, maybe not publicly, but privately, just to not have too much of the stem sticking out. You want things to be kind of grouped and bundled together. You don't want too much empty or negative space, I guess, as they call it in the photography and design world. Okay, there we go. Pop this in here. There we go. Bring those 3 tabs in. There we go. Let's apply our glue. Nice and easy. Spread that out to the edge. There's going to be some panels going on this, so if you do get a little bit of glue that shoots out, don't worry about it. All right, again, focus on getting it aligned here on this longest side. Get this little lid right out to the very edge. Use your thumb or your fingers to kind of feel those seams. Make sure everything feels good. There we go. And then just keep running your fingers along the perimeter, making sure everything's making good contact. Okay, there we go. Wonderful. So we've got our 4 main boards. We have our 2 legs. We have our base. And then we're going to build this funky piece, which is actually not as hard as it looks. I did one off camera already just to make sure that I was doing it right. And of course you want to go ahead and get everything pre-folded. Okay, there's a few tabs here, a few tabs there. It's actually very simple. You're gonna make 2 of these. Excuse me. I'm only gonna do 1 with you since I already have 1 made. But just go ahead and fold everything at the tabs. Okay, there we go. All right, so here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna begin, now that I have everything folded, I'm going to unfold it. We're gonna take this tab here on this end, apply some glue, spread that glue out. Again, we've got a panel going over this as well, so it doesn't have to be perfect. Bring it over to this side and just line that up to the very edge. Make sure it's centered. You can kind of warp it a little bit or bend it if you need to, just to give you better control and a better visual on what you're doing. Got a little bit of glue that shot out there, but that's okay. This thing's supposed to look kind of rustic and beat up anyway. Okay, there we go. Just like that. And so take a look at the shape of this one. Okay, let's see if I can stand this up somehow. There we go. Okay, so you can see how it kind of almost has a little step on the side, on both sides actually. It's like a little step. So that's how I need you to form these folds here. I need you to kind of fold it to create that little step. Okay, so you can see I've got that little step form there. Do the same thing on the other side. Just takes a little playing with it. Just don't rip it. There we go. Not quite, almost though. There we go. Just need to form the little step. There we go. Okay, so you can see the little step on both sides now. Okay, and what we're going to do is we're going to bring in these little tiny tabs first. Okay, and on this side here, there's a long tab and a short tab. Bring the short tab in first, long tab over it, triangular tab, short tab, long tab over it. Bring this tab down, and this is actually going to cover all this up completely like that. Okay, now once we have it like this, we have two pieces left. Well, it should be four because you're going to make two of these. One's a little bit wider, one's a little bit shorter. We're actually going to slide this in. Okay, so slide that in. That's going to be on the bottom, and then this one's going to go right on top of it, like so. And you can tuck these in the same way, because we want to be able to put this down on our surface. Go ahead and close it up. We're not gluing anything yet. We're just going to kind of close it up so that we can put this down on one side, like that. Okay, it doesn't matter which side we work on at this point. Let's take this lid, open it up, and just try to make sure that you maintain that little step situation there. And then go ahead and apply your glue onto all these tabs, especially this long one. Okay, and then just go ahead and close it up. And as you're closing it up, focus on the long side first, get that in place, and then take the little steps, little step section, and just push that in where necessary for it to take on that shape, and then just keep pressing down, and that's how easy it is. Okay, give that a few seconds to set. And hold it. Okay, then we can flip it over. Take this lid, get it out of the way. And same thing. Just apply your glue on the tabs. Thin it out, spread it out, and close it up. Focus on this long piece first. Make sure all the tabs are down. Get it right out to the edge, nice and centered. And then if you need to, just kind of nudge the little steps in and then press down for it to hold. And it miraculously just kind of works. Who would have thought? Okay, so you're going to repeat that process one more time so that you have 2 of these. And there they are. Okay, so here's how we're going to build this now. Okay, I'm actually going to do this with regular glue. I don't want to use hot glue. This piece is going to go right here like so. Okay, so we can take and apply our glue to the bottom of this. Spread it out, thin it out, make sure you cover that entire bottom. This is a symmetrical piece, so it doesn't matter which one you do, top or bottom, but you do want to just make sure you get it right out to the edge. And if you want, you can actually do it this way so that you can use your table as a guide. Just make sure it's centered. Okay, so the table is just making sure that this in fact is nice and flush. Okay, and then you can flip it this way. You can see how it did that. You might as well just leave it like this. And make sure it's at a 90-degree angle there. And we may just want to be a little extra patient while this sets, so we don't rush it. You could, hey Siri, stop. You could use hot glue if you want, but my fear with the hot glue is that it's going to kind of add some thickness to the bottom of this that we don't want. I want it to be as flush as possible. Okay, there we go. And then we're going to take this piece, do the same thing, just on the other side. So go ahead and apply your glue. Spread that out onto the entire surface. And again, we've got some panels going over this, so if you get a little bit of glue shooting out, don't worry about it, not the end of the world. Okay, so again, I'm putting this, using my table here as my guide. Just make sure that you get it centered. There we go. There we go. Okay, so we'll let that sit and let that set. Okay, now I'm going to take our little planks, and the first one's going to go right here at the bottom. So it's going to kind of keep everything together for us, like so, just like that. So what we need to do is just apply glue to the corners here, or the ends. Pop it right in there on this side and on this side. And you can push down, and then now you can actually kind of push in from the outside to get this thing nice and squared up. Make sure it's flush here at the bottom as well. And just keep holding that in place. Okay. That's nice. Now this one here, hello there, mister. Admiring my work, I see. This one's going to be flush with the top. Again, make sure it's flush with the top, and then just kind of push it in as well while you're pushing down to get this thing nice and square. Okay, just be patient. No need to rush this part. We're almost there. Okay, and we'll head over to the other side. Do the same thing. A little bit of glue on the ends. And technically, if you want, you can actually put a little bit of glue there as well. Just pop it right in there, push it down all the way to the bottom. And you can push down and push in from the sides Remember, we have some panels that are going to go over all of these, so if you have a little bit of glue that's kind of shooting out, don't worry about it. It'll be fine. Okay. That should hold. And the last one. Make sure this one is flush with the top, like so. And push that into place. And there's our crate. Now we just got to add some color to it. Okay, so it's time to put our little panels in place. Okay, and what we can do here, I'll start with the large section first. Just apply your glue on the entire inside of this, like so. And you'll see here there's 3 little tabs, I'll call them. Those are going to go around the top and the sides, so just make sure that you get that in place correctly first. We'll get this large section in first. Okay, you can put that down on your surface and push down that way. And then you can flare each of these little sections out and apply your glue. And just push that over and press it down. And I'm probably going to take, and once I get all these panels in place, just kind of hit this with a little bit more ink to get rid of any of this white core that's still showing through. Not a big fan of it. We'll go over to this side here. Push that side into place. Make sure it's all making good, solid contact. I'm not a fan of that white core. It's okay though. I am a fan of this pattern though. There we go. Pop that into place. We'll do the same thing on the other end. And kind of doing like a two-toned sort of wooden look on this. Okay, there we go. That looks nice. So over here, we'll do the same thing on this side. Just apply our glue on this large section. Okay, pop that right on there. Make sure that those little folded areas are in the correct spot. There we go. Put that down on our surface. Okay, and flare this top part out. Apply our glue there. Close that up. Just make sure it's good and flush all the way around. Okay, while I'm holding that down, flare this back. Apply my glue. Press that into place. Still have some little legs that we need to put on here. I'm going to do that last. I don't want to crush them while I was doing all this. Let's go over here, flare this out. Apply our glue there. Here we go. Push that into place. And if your crate is a little wonky, hey, have you ever seen a crate that's like perfect? Oh, I haven't. Okay, there we go. Now, these little panels here, these are going to go right on like this. Okay, there's nothing that goes underneath. We figured no one's really going to be looking down there anyway. Try to get that as centered as you can. So we're going to take and apply some glue to the large section here. Okay, just pop that on there. Get it nice and centered. Press that down. Can push down from the other side, and I can flare out this thin little strip here. Apply some glue to that. Go ahead and close that up, right up on top. And just kind of keep running your finger along that top. Make sure everything was good and flush. That's cute. Really coming together now. Look at that. Awesome. All right, grab the next piece. Same thing. Okay. You know what, with this one, I think I'm just going to put the glue on this little thin strip since it's maybe a little more difficult to get my fingers in there. Not too bad. Okay, get that good and centered. Pushing down from the top, making sure that that's all nice and in place. Perfect. Put that down on my surface. Can push down from the inside. Okay. Yeah, all right, look at that. That's looking really cool, actually. This is gonna look really nice. Okay, heading over to the back. 2 more panels there. We've got 1 little panel that's gonna go on the bottom there. Not a big deal. I think you guys are gonna love putting this little crate together. At least I hope. Okay, there we go. Okay, I'll put that down on my surface, press down from the inside. Yeah, no sense in using this pattern paper on the inside. No one's ever gonna see it anyway. We're gonna be putting our floral foam in there, along with some fill, some moss, and it's kind of silly to waste a nice pattern piece on something that's not even gonna be visible anyway. Okay, so let's get this one in place. And like I said, we may go in and I might go in and hit this with a little bit more ink now that everything's together. If I see any of that white core showing up, just want to kind of drown it out. Probably use a dark brown or even a black to do that. Now that's all going to depend on the color paper you're using or color pattern. It's going to determine. That's so cool. Look at that. That looks so real. Okay. All right, let's put this little strip on the bottom here. Okay. Just pop that right on the bottom. That looks so cool. Perfect paper for this, I must say. We actually ordered some paper and for whatever reason it got delayed. So we had to work with what we had and it just so happened that we had just the perfect paper for this, I think anyway. Okay, there we go. There's that last little strip. Yeah, like I said, there's little gaps here, but who cares? You can't really tell. It makes it actually look more realistic. Love it. All right, let's grab our little feet here and we're gonna put it wide. There's like a short side and a wide side. I want the wide side like that. And this is just gonna get glued right here like so. So you can be kind of generous with the glue on this one. We really want this to stick and not move. Make sure it's nice and flush with the front and the sides, like so. Oops. Got a little crazy there. Here we go. Same thing with this one. What a cool little piece. Flush with the front, back, and side. Give that a few seconds to really get a hold. There we go. And just let that sit for a minute. Okay. All right, so like I said, I'm going to take a few minutes here to run a little bit of ink on any of the places that might need it. I'm going to go with a black. And it's kind of cool. You can really just muddy it up. Sometimes you have to kind of strike this white area at various angles to cover up that white core. And you can definitely even just kind of rub it like this, and that's fine. I think it adds to the overall aesthetic if you kind of muddy it up a little bit. There we go. Maybe a little bit up here. Love it. I'm happy with that. That is BA. Okay. All right, so see what I want is you want to have a little bit of room around the perimeter to put in your moss too, so that instead of seeing the floral foam through this gap here, you're actually just seeing moss. So I wouldn't make it completely tight, and I would cut this to about, I'd say about a third of the way up this guy here. So if I was to cut it, I'd cut it probably about here so that the floral foam goes just slightly above this one. And again, don't forget to leave a little bit of a gap. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna cut this, I'm gonna fill this with my moss, and I'm gonna start putting my flowers in, and we'll talk about the arrangement here in just a moment. Okay, so here is roughly what I came up with. Now, one thing that I want to mention to you is, well, that no two arrangements are going to be the same. My advice is to, when you do your arrangement, try to make it so that when you put the flowers in, you don't have a lot of open space and you don't see the stems. And also, consider where you're going to be placing it or where it's going to be used. If, for example, you have it up against a wall where you don't really see the back of it too much, then obviously you can fill it in with some flowers, but make the focus the front and the sides, which is what I did. For now, I'm going to use this behind me as a display. Now, when fall comes around, I'm probably going to bring this into my dining room, at which point what I'm going to do is probably rearrange this a little bit so that it's not so front heavy, okay? Now, the only thing that I added that wasn't paper were these little stems that I found at Joann. They were 50% off, and they are perfect. The reason that, well, we didn't want to make anything like this out of paper. It would just take forever. These were $1.99 at 50% off, so they cost next to nothing. And the reason I got them was, as you can see here, without this little added touch of green, it kind of, well, just doesn't look as full. And this green also helps create contrast between the flowers. Okay, so I may end up still kind of moving things around a little bit here and there. And the stems, they ended up being cut way shorter, okay, than they were when we made them. So for example, this one here, this was the original stem that I created, that I used, and I ended up chopping it significantly. So you can use these for future projects. Now, not all of them were cut to that length. Obviously, another tip or suggestion I would give you is to kind of start low on your first layer there. And then as you make your way back, make it a little bit higher. Okay, so kind of stagger things a little bit so that there's different levels. You have a bottom level, a middle level, a top level, and these little stems here, it's okay if they go up beyond the flowers, but I'm very happy with how that turned out. My suggestion would be to take a look at the photo. I'm gonna try to get as many angles of this as possible, so you can kind of mimic that if you want. And again, my biggest tip, don't leave too much stem, don't leave too much negative space. Make it look nice and full, okay? And as you can see here, I had the floral foam in there with enough room to get a little bit of that moss showing through here. There's a little bit visible in the gaps here, and so on and so forth, okay? Now, remember the 3 extra leaves that we have. What I'm gonna do and I already put one in place here, is I'm going to use the rest of them to kind of drape over the crates, like in little areas here, maybe coming off the side and on the back. And all we're doing with these is very similar to how we put the flowers on, except it's going to be the only element that we attach to the stem. So you literally just wrap just the single leaf around the stem, just get it right up to the top, and just continue wrapping down. Go down and then maybe go up one more time, just to make sure that it stays put. And then you can trim this to whatever length you want. Okay. And just to be safe, I'll keep a little extra. And then you can just kind of fill that in. Like I'm going to put this one probably in the back here. Just kind of have it draping out, just to kind of fill in the outside. So it's not just flowers crate, there's kind of a little transition that happens there, okay? You can do that with all three and put them wherever you want. But that is our beautiful arrangement. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please consider hitting that subscribe button on our YouTube channel. While you're there, hit the little bell so you get notifications anytime we release a new project, whether it be paid or free. And if you make this or anything from our new autumn bundle, I'd love to see it, and so would the rest of our community. So head over to your Facebook and do a search for Dreaming Tree Official. That's where you'll find myself and over 46,000 other dreamers that inspire us daily. So hope you had a blast. And as always, I look forward to crafting with you again. Hey, thanks for crafting along with me. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, check out some of our other videos and please consider hitting that subscribe button. Also, don't forget to visit our site and check out our free SVG section where you'll find over 140 free SVG files complete with assembly tutorials. I'll see you in the craft room.